Welcome to my channel, The Good Books Tales. In today's video, we're diving into one of the most fascinating and emotionally powerful stories ever told. The story of Joseph and his colorful coat. But this isn't just a story about a beautiful piece of fabric. No, this tale goes far deeper. It's about jealousy, betrayal, dreams, and ultimately, hope. So get comfortable, because what starts as a simple gift from a loving father soon spirals into a journey filled with twists, heartbreak, and mystery. And trust me, you won't see what's coming next. Picture this: a quiet valley in ancient Canaan. The sun is just rising over the hills, casting golden light over fields of sheep and olive trees. And in the middle of it all is a young boy named Joseph, 17 years old, full of dreams, and completely unaware that his life is about to change forever. He's the favorite son of Jacob, a wealthy shepherd with 12 sons. But Joseph wasn't just another boy in the family. He was special. Or at least, that's what his father believed. To show how much he loved him, Jacob gave Joseph a one-of-a-kind gift, a touching coat of many colors. Now this wasn't your average robe. It shimmered in the sunlight with threads of red, gold, blue, and green. It was a symbol, one that screamed, "Joseph is the chosen one." And his brothers, they noticed. Oh, they noticed. As Joseph walked by, proudly wearing his coat, his brothers felt something rising inside them. Bitterness. They didn't just feel jealous, they felt invisible. To make things worse, Joseph started having strange dreams, vivid dreams, dreams where he stood tall while the sun, moon, and stars bowed to him, or where bundles of grain bowed before his own. At first, his brothers laughed, but laughter quickly turned to anger. Was Joseph saying he would one day rule over them? Was this spoiled little dreamer actually serious? But Joseph didn't stop. He shared every dream, every detail, unaware that with each word, the gap between him and his brothers grew wider. That's when the whispers began, quiet talks behind the sheep pens. Cold glances exchanged when Joseph wasn't looking. Something dark was growing in their hearts. A plan that would take Joseph far from home and into the unknown. And just when it seemed like things couldn't get any more intense, the brothers made a decision that would shatter the family and change Joseph's destiny forever. A day came when Joseph was sent out, wearing that colorful coat, to check on his brothers in the fields. He thought it was just another simple trip. He had no idea what was waiting for him. He didn't know that betrayal was lurking behind every friendly smile. He couldn't imagine how far they were willing to go. What happens next? Where does Joseph end up? And how does a boy betrayed by his own family rise to become one of the most powerful men in Egypt? Stick around, because this is only the beginning. The story of Joseph and his colorful coat. It is a tale full of surprises, dreams, and lessons that still speak to us today. As we unfold this powerful narrative, packed with emotion and mystery, we'll uncover secrets that even Joseph didn't see coming. Make sure to subscribe, like, and stay tuned. The next part of this story will leave you absolutely speechless. As Joseph made his way across the open fields, his colorful coat flowing behind him, he had no idea that every step was leading him closer to betrayal. The sun was hot overhead, the path dusty under his feet, and in his mind he might have been daydreaming about his latest vision. Another one of those strange dreams that didn't make sense, but somehow felt real. He was used to being alone in his thoughts, and maybe that's why he never noticed how the distance between him and his brothers wasn't just physical. It was emotional too, a deep divide that had been growing for years. Back at home, Joseph had always been different. He didn't work in the fields as much as the others. He didn't have the calloused hands or the sunburned skin. He stayed close to their father, helping with records, animals, and running errands. To Jacob, Joseph was a miracle, a child born to him in old age through his beloved wife Rachel. That alone made Joseph stand out, but it was the way Jacob looked at him, with pride, with joy, that pushed his brothers further away. They longed for that same approval, but it never came. Not the way it came for Joseph. And the coat, that beautiful, colorful robe, was the last straw. It wasn't just fabric, it was a symbol of status. A silent message saying, "You're not equal to him." Every time Joseph wore it, it reminded them of everything they didn't have. And when he started sharing those dreams where he stood taller than them, dreams where they bowed before him, it felt like he was rubbing it in. Whether he meant it or not, the damage was done. As Joseph finally spotted his brothers in the distance, laughing and tending to the sheep, his heart lifted. He was happy to see them. But the brothers? Their faces changed the moment they saw the coat. That same coat that had haunted them for months. Something snapped. Quiet whispers turned into serious looks. They glanced at each other, nodding without speaking. The tension in the air thickened, and suddenly the warmth of the day felt cold. This was their moment. "What if we got rid of him?" one of them muttered under his breath. Joseph was still smiling as he walked toward them, completely unaware that this meeting wasn't going to end the way he thought. Behind those familiar faces were plans darker than he could ever imagine. And as the brothers moved closer, their hearts pounded, not with love, but with something far more dangerous. What they did next would change everything. Joseph's footsteps slowed as he approached his brothers. Something felt different. Their eyes were cold, their smiles forced. But before he could figure it out, they surrounded him. One of them reached for his coat, that same colorful coat that had caused so much pain and jealousy. In a flash, they grabbed him, their hands rough, their voices sharp. Joseph shouted, confused, asking what was going on. But they didn't answer. Their minds were already made up. They dragged him across the rocky ground, ignoring his cries. Dust filled the air as he struggled, but their grip never loosened. Not even when he begged. And then, a pit. A dry, empty well, deep and dark. Without a word, they threw him in. Joseph hit the bottom hard, his voice echoing as he called for help. But no one answered. His brothers stood above, staring down, hearts racing. Some were silent, some laughed nervously. But all of them felt the weight of what they'd just done. Above the pit, arguments broke out. Reuben, the eldest, paced in circles. "We shouldn't have done this," he muttered. "Let's not kill him. Let's just leave him here. Maybe Father will never know." But others had different ideas. They talked in hushed tones, eyes darting between the pit and the horizon. That's when they saw it. A caravan of traders approaching. Camels, goods, foreign accents, Ishmaelites on their way to Egypt. A new idea sparked, darker, colder. "Why not sell him?" one of the brothers whispered. "We get rid of him and make something out of it. He'll be gone, and we won't have blood on our hands." As the caravan neared, Joseph remained in the pit, bruised and scared, with no clue that he was about to be sold. As a slave. The sound of the approaching caravan grew louder. The clinking of harnesses, the shuffle of camels, and the low voices of traders speaking in a language Joseph didn't understand. Still trapped in the pit, he could only hear the noise above him, too far down to see what was happening. His heart raced. Every second felt heavier. He didn't know it yet, but his fate was being decided without him. A price was being negotiated for his life. The brothers spoke quickly with the traders, voices low but urgent. Silver changed hands, and just like that, the decision was final. They threw down a rope and shouted into the pit. Joseph's hope rose for a moment. Maybe they'd change their minds. Maybe they were going to take him home. But when he reached the top and saw the strangers standing nearby, dressed in foreign robes, looking at him like he was property, his heart dropped. Hands grabbed him, not gently. He struggled, trying to understand what was happening, but his brothers avoided his eyes. None of them said a word. Reuben was gone, and when he returned moments later and found the pit empty, his face turned pale. "What have you done?" he asked, but it was too late. Joseph was already tied, already led away by people who didn't know his name and didn't care. The colorful coat, now crumpled and stained, was left behind like it never meant anything. Back at home, the brothers dipped that very coat in goat's blood and carried it to their father, telling him a wild animal had attacked Joseph. Jacob fell to the ground in grief, crying out in pain, not knowing the truth. Meanwhile, Joseph was heading toward Egypt, toward chains, towards a future he couldn't see yet. The desert wind blew harsh and dry as Joseph stumbled beside the caravan, his wrists tied, feet blistered from walking. Every step away from home felt like a step into darkness. He didn't know where he was going. He didn't know why his own brothers had done this. All he had were questions and silence. The traders said little, treating him like just another item among their goods. Spices, oils, fabrics, and now Joseph, a boy with dreams, stripped of his freedom and his coat, but not his spirit. As the days passed, the towering walls of Egypt, came into view, strange, distant, and powerful. Joseph had heard stories about this land, a place of pharaohs and temples, where dreams meant something and fate could change overnight. But standing in chains, surrounded by strangers, Egypt didn't feel like a land of hope. It felt like a trap, and still he held on. Somewhere deep inside, something told him this wasn't the end of his story. Back in Canaan, Jacob sat alone, holding what was left of Joseph, the bloodied robe. His grief swallowed the household in silence. Days turned into weeks, and the brothers? They said nothing. They kept the secret buried deep, but guilt lingered. It hung in the air between them, especially in Reuben's eyes. Each time their father cried, each time he called out Joseph's name, it stung a little more. But no one dared speak the truth. In Egypt, the marketplace was buzzing. Slaves were lined up. Bids were made. And Joseph, tired, bruised, and barely standing, was sold again. This time to a high-ranking official named Potiphar, captain of Pharaoh's guard, a powerful man in a powerful city. And with that, Joseph entered a world filled with politics, danger, and secrets. A world where one wrong move could cost him everything. And he was being watched. Joseph quickly proved himself in Potiphar's house. Though he started as a servant, his honesty, wisdom, and calm spirit didn't go unnoticed. Everything he touched seemed to succeed. Potiphar gave him more and more responsibility until Joseph was managing the entire household. For a while, it seemed like his life was turning around. But just when it looked like things might finally go right, everything took another turn, one he never saw coming. Potiphar's wife began to watch him closely. At first, it was just glances. Then it turned into words, flattering, suggestive, and persistent. Joseph kept his distance, trying to stay respectful and loyal. But she didn't stop. One day, when no one else was around, she grabbed him, demanding something Joseph would never give. He pulled away and ran, leaving his cloak behind. Furious, she twisted the story, claiming Joseph had tried to harm her. Potiphar returned home, and his wife's version of the story lit the air with tension. Joseph, once trusted, was thrown into prison, just like that. The same hands that had once lifted him up now pushed him down. And yet again, Joseph was behind bars, forgotten by the world, but not by God. Even in prison, Joseph stood out. He listened, helped, and offered comfort. Soon the prison keeper trusted him with responsibilities, and once more, Joseph found purpose in a place meant to break him. There he met two men, former servants of Pharaoh, each with strange, vivid dreams. Joseph, guided by his deep connection to truth and meaning, interpreted them with stunning accuracy. One dream predicted death, the other restoration. Both came true. 2 long years passed. Then Pharaoh himself had a dream that disturbed the entire palace. No one could explain it, until the restored servant remembered the man from prison. Joseph was brought before Pharaoh, now older, worn, but still strong inside. He listened to the dream. 7 fat cows eaten by 7 thin ones. 7 healthy stalks swallowed by 7 withered ones. Joseph didn't panic. He spoke with clarity. The dreams were warnings. 7 years of abundance would be followed by 7 years of famine. Pharaoh believed him. Suddenly, the forgotten prisoner was made second in command over all Egypt. But as the famine struck across the region, something happened Joseph never expected. One day, 10 men arrived from Canaan, desperate for food. They didn't recognize him, but he knew them. His brothers were standing in front of him, and they were bowing. Joseph stood silent for a moment, looking at the faces of the brothers who had once thrown him into a pit, sold him into slavery, and left him for dead. They were older now. The confidence they once carried was gone, replaced by worry, fear, and desperation. They had no idea the powerful man standing before them was their brother, the same Joseph they had betrayed. He could have spoken then, revealed himself, and taken revenge. But instead, he tested them. He wanted to see if their hearts had changed. Over the next few days, Joseph observed them closely. He listened to how they spoke to one another, how they cared for their youngest brother Benjamin, and how they begged for mercy when things got difficult. What he saw was not the cruel jealousy of the past, but remorse. He saw pain, and more importantly, he saw love. When he could no longer hold it in, Joseph asked all the Egyptian servants to leave the room. The silence that followed was thick. Then, with tears in his eyes, he said the words that shook his brothers to the core. "I am Joseph." At first they were speechless. Faces turned pale. How could it be? But Joseph stepped forward, not with anger, but with compassion. "Don't be afraid," he said. "What you meant for harm, God used for good." That moment changed everything. Joseph forgave them, not because they deserved it, but because he had found peace in his own heart. He invited his entire family to Egypt, including his father Jacob, who wept when he saw his son alive. The family was reunited, and Joseph, once a slave, once a prisoner, now stood as a leader who had saved not just Egypt, but his own people. The story of Joseph and his colorful coat isn't just about betrayal and suffering. It's about resilience, faith, and how even the darkest chapters can lead to something greater. It reminds us that dreams take time, that forgiveness is powerful, and that no matter how far we fall, hope can rise again. Thanks for watching this incredible journey. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this story of courage and redemption. See you in the next video.